So I would like to mention one thing from the cooperative and the promoter's point of view on managing this price risk. The first question is, who takes the decision on when to sell? Now this is a big challenge because typical promoters or NGOs, they are not very market savvy, and the farmers, they have still got to learn how to play the commodity markets. So it's a very difficult job. So as a promoter, in the initial stages, it makes a lot of sense to de-risk by simply booking profits. So you have some cutoff. It need not even be 20%. It could be something like 10%. The moment the price goes up by 10%, then you just book it. Now there is an interesting epilogue to this strategy. So in one of the cooperatives, the farmers followed that strategy and booked their profits. Now a few weeks later, the price went up considerably. So all the members were howling in protest and asking the cooperative that why did you sell at that time? We should have kept it up, kept holding it, and then we would have realized much higher profits and so on. And there was a lot of pressure and flack that the cooperative leaders had to face. Now, if the promoter or the promoting organization takes a call on when to sell and when to buy, then the blame goes to them. If you push the decision making to the farmers and say, well, this is your decision, this is your collective decision, the profits are yours, the losses are yours. So what does this cooperative do the following year? They did not sell by that date, and after that the price started going down. It did not go down to the harvest level, it went up and then came down and then they sold. Now this 2-year cycle is a great learning curve for not only the cooperative and its leaders, but for all the thousands of farmers in the cooperative. They realize one simple thing, that it is impossible to make the maximum profit every year, because there is only one day in the year when the price reaches the maximum, and rest of the time it is always below that. And to dream that you are going to book your profits on the day that the prices are the maximum is impossible. So then they realize that, well, it's good if we are able to book our profits, and we should be happy with a reasonable income, extra income. There is another part of this pool, store and sell model that needs to be emphasized, and that is who pays for the speculation. So there are examples of cooperatives where the external promoting agency, because they are do-gooders, they provide the entire working capital loan to the cooperative. So then what happens? The leaders of the cooperative become highly respected leaders in the local region, because all the farmers get a very good payment on the same day, which even the traders don't do. They get a higher value that the traders don't give, and everybody is happy. But there is a small problem with that, that you have to sell that produce at a good profit and repay the working capital loan with interest. Now whose responsibility is it? Well, typically it should be the cooperatives, but in the early days they don't sense that responsibility. So it very much becomes the baby of the promoter to take charge of the produce, to monitor the markets and push the cooperative to sell it so that the loan is recovered. This is not a good way of promoting cooperatives. The other style is to ensure something called member stake, skin in the game if you like. So one simple way of doing it is to ask the members that, look, this is what is likely to happen, you are going to make a very good profit. However, if the produce today is worth 100 rupees, we are going to give you something like 50 to 60 rupees, just part payment, enough for you to repay your loans and meet some household expenses. Usually when you come up with this model, there are howls of protest, not only from the farmers and the leaders, but even from the field staff of the promoting agency as well. This is never going to work, people are very poor, they will not listen, and so on. So If you follow this strategy, what happens is that instead of getting 100 farmers on year one, you may get only 20, because people are not dumb. People understand the value of what we are saying. They may not want to take the risk. So you start slowly, but then it starts building up, because year after year you make profits and your working capital costs are down. And the most important thing of part payment is that each farmer, each member fully owns the cooperative. Till the value is realized in the market, he or she is always thinking about the produce which is lying in the cooperative. They're monitoring the prices, they're thinking about when to sell, so they get fully engaged in the entire operations. So that ownership really comes in. We should tweak the model a little bit to enable the poorest farmers, those who are having only 5 quintals, which is 500 kilos or below, or whatever that number is, and say that for such small farmers we will actually give the full payment, and any amount beyond that, beyond say 5 quintals, the payment would be a part payment, so that the better off farmers actually have some skin in the game. This is the best training program you can have on cooperatives for farmers, ensuring that they have skin in the game. Once they have skin in the game, they start thinking about markets, marketing, prices, and how to sell, when to sell, how to negotiate. Everything falls into place. If they get their money up front, they are very happy. They don't worry about it. And there are countless examples right here in India in the last few years of promoting agencies that have followed the first strategy of paying all the members very generously. Most of them have closed down. And besides, it's not scalable, because how much working capital can you raise? And the examples of the other side where there is part payment, and such cooperatives are still thriving and doing extremely well.